Okay, now I've gone through kind of cleaning up most of this image on the remove layer. Now the reduce layer, what I would do is I'd put like laugh lines or some beauty mark or something like that that I wasn't sure what my client wanted me to do. So I could just say option, I'd get rid of it here. And now what I can do is by having that on its own layer, I can bring that back 100%, or I can bring it back as much as I want. I've got a lot of control over that. So anything that would fall on the reduce layer, there's not a lot of things on this particular image that I'd use that for. But on top of this, I would add another layer, and I would call this layer under eyes. Now you'll notice that when you're doing these retouches, that a lot of times there are major circles underneath some of the model's eyes that you may be photographing. So what you want to do is you want to be able to negotiate that in a way that is fairly easy to deal with. So under the eyes specifically gets put on its own layer, and here's why. I hit the S key, which brings the clone stamp tool up, and I put it in light and blend mode. And what light and blend mode is going to do is going to look at the sample point, and it's going to only affect pixels that it can lighten, so they're going to be darker than my original sample. So if it's lighter than the sample, I should not touch that. So I'll get a larger brush, and I will get a much lighter opacity and flow. I normally work with my flow around 50%, and my opacity really varies depending on what I'm working on. So I'll option click underneath that person's eyes and stroke once, twice. Just looking to clean up under the eyes a little bit. Now we're not seeing huge effects here, but we're looking to take out some of that shadowing. And we can also go in very fine and put this back in normal blend mode. We can get in really close and handle areas like this. So I'll get my clone stamp tool, option click pretty close to it, and we'll just continue to go over it. And this is kind of like very subtly burning and dodging. This should be pretty faint. And if it's coming on too thick, then you may want to either bring your brush down, change the brush thickness so it'll pass the other brush in general. But here you can handle some of these areas and like these little wrinkle areas in here with a lot more precision, because basically you're more or less burning and dodging these small cracks. So you can use that method, and on top of that method you could actually hit the J key and go back to your heel brush, option click beneath that, and as long as you're not too close to like other textures, a lot of times you can get decent results. Now it's important to note that what's happening here is strictly because I am healing over cloning. So to avoid this, I'm going to make that go back, and I can add another layer on top of that, and I can call this additional heal. And with that, now I can go here and I can heal that without any problems like I had before and build that texture back. You just want to avoid repeating patterns. You want to avoid things like when you start seeing pores get repeated in pairs or something like that, because that really starts to give away the fact that there's been work done on somebody. So if you can, go through this image and get rid of some of this work with a heel brush. Just sometimes when you get too close to an edge, a lot of times the heel brush can misbehave, and that's when the clone stamp tool can come into play. But if you want to make quick of this, the heel brush is probably going to be one of your best tools for this because of the texture it's going to maintain. Now I want to go through this eye here and clean up some of this stuff here on my additional heel under the eyes, and we'll be back right after that to talk about the hot spots.